Rayman Jungle Run is an auto-scrolling mobile game that came out in 2012, and I do remember playing it, but not for very long. More often I'd be playing the Play Store version of Rayman 1, which released a few years later. At the time, I wasn't too invested in the UbiArt Rayman games. Kinda disappointed, really, that this appeared to be the future of the series. It's not about them being 2D, that's totally fine, but who gave them drugs? Like, what happened to the fun character dynamics, heroic storylines, and big bad villains to pursue? And now to think that the length of time between Rayman 1 and Origins will soon become equal to the amount of time it's been since Origins was released. For many people today, this is the only Rayman that exists. It makes me wonder what the optimal outcome for a future Rayman game even is. At this point, those still lingering on to the hope of a 3D game is a niche market. So I wouldn't know what to expect if I asked a room full of Rayman fans whether they'd want the next game to be in 2D or 3D. Maybe out of sheer fatigue they would vote 3D, but who knows. Anyways, Rayman Jungle Run. It's dead. Sort of. Having been delisted along with the sequel Fiesta Run in 2022. You can actually still buy them on the Ubisoft store for PC, though according to fans it doesn't run very well. There are modified APKs you can download from the Rayman Pirate community which will still work offline. That's what I used today. As it turns out, there's also a remastered Duology for PC, also from the Rayman Pirate community. Of course, I need to say that I'm using the BlueStacks emulator for this. Initially, I thought that was my only choice in the matter. Nonetheless, this pursuit is as faithful to the original release as you can get today. So Rayman Jungle Run is basically a streamlined expansion for Origins made so simple that you only need to press one button. Well, two eventually. I believe when Jungle Run was released, Rayman was still somewhat a contemporary gaming mascot, and I feel like that stopped around 2018 with the release of Rayman Legends Definitive Edition on Switch. People started asking, once again, Rabbids, why can't they do anything else with Rayman? So to be sitting here playing a Rayman game that I'm largely unfamiliar with, from a period in time when fans still had hope, it almost hurts. If you grew up with Mario or Sonic as your favorite gaming mascot, man did you get lucky. And yes, back to Jungle Run. I just feel like there's so much you can say regarding this specific era of Rayman. There are 3 alternate characters you can play as, at least in this APK they've unlocked. Apparently back in the day you'd need to buy the character pack for $1 US. I only checked the other characters out when finishing my playthrough, so you don't really need to bother with that. That is unless you've set your heart on a glowbox moment. As is the nature of an auto-scroller, you can't manually change directions, so if you miss something, unless you're able to perform your way back to it somehow, it's gone. Rayman will just push into the wall otherwise. Levels are very short, usually less than a minute, so having to restart often is not a big deal. None of these are terribly difficult either. I did get stuck on 2 or 3 of the levels throughout the game, and that usually didn't last more than 5 minutes. Check out this section here. I thought it was pretty neat. There's a vine that grows as you bounce off the wall, allowing you to reach the top. The full impact of these moments can only be realized in a game where you've glued yourself to D-pad right. Yay! One thing I always found it fun to do is jump just before Rayman reaches the goal, so then he ends up doing the victory pose mid-air. So what is the goal in Jungle Run exactly? Well, I'm not sure if there being a storyline here, but the deal is you're supposed to collect as many Lums as possible. Or were they Lums? I can't even remember the right way to say it. But there's 100 in every level, and if you happen to score perfect, you get a Tooth of the Dead. Collect 5 in a world category to unlock its secret Land of the Living Dead level. We'll talk about that a bit more later. So we're about an hour into the game at this point. Hardly spotted any enemies. Occasionally you'll find one to jump on, but I don't even recall there being one in the first half hour. Pretty bizarre for a Rayman game. It's when you reach World 4-1 when you unlock the punching ability, and from that point on there's tons of them. I haven't mentioned the soundtrack yet, which I'm guessing was all imported from Origins, however it's only a handful of tracks, which repeat ad nauseum until some point beyond the hour mark. Then it switches to a different handful of tracks that, of course, repeat ad nauseum. You can turn it off completely, and I probably should have, but if so, I wouldn't have known that the music changes in World 5. Wait a second. The worlds I've played thus far are just jump, fly, wall run, punch. Half the game's a tutorial. Oh, while we're here, collecting Lums counts to an overall score which is used to unlock JPEGs. I mean that in the most literal sense. You click one, it opens the actual JPEG in your web browser. Fine. I guess you could then download it directly and use as a phone wallpaper, but it's just a weird way to do it, you know? Speaking of, yeah, I didn't need to see that. Something to appreciate about Jungle Run is how frequently the environments change. It felt like every level was in a different setting. Though they do repeat locations often, it just doesn't feel like that as much, and for the simple game that it is, I think that was the best approach. Opposed to a generic World 1 with green fields. While the first hour of the game is fairly typical for its genre, after that point it does the familiar Rayman thing where suddenly there are tentacle spikes everywhere. Sometimes I'd end up focusing more on completing the stage than collecting all the Lums. If you're going for a perfectionist run, some of these can be challenging, and you might even miss a few that you never saw. The trial and error nature of it becomes apparent around this point, which isn't out of expectation here really. Origins did that too. In some cases you'll probably need to fail in order to figure out how to do the run correctly. There aren't any consequences for failure, so I don't think anyone would mind about that. Especially with how frequently the landscape is changed up, it keeps it fresh and interesting. Take for example this maze that flings Rayman all over the place. Many levels that follow it have similar design principles as well. One recurring example are the breakable doors. The instinct is to break them open on sight, but you can actually wall jump off them. Usually there's something worthwhile behind it to collect, like one of those skull coins worth 20 Lums each. Yeah, I'm just gonna say Lums. I don't like Lums. I don't want to say Lums. So I doubt this was ever intentional, but there are a few instances in the game where you can get Rayman to run in the opposite direction. You'll rely on the mercy of whatever's behind you, and trust me, this game is not balanced for backtracking. The fast pace of these levels grew on me after a while, which admittedly did take longer to get there than I would probably naturally sit around for, but let's not forget that this is, after all, a mobile phone game from the 2010s. You can't expect the same kind of experience, really. It's designed for quick sessions. There was one level that I had a really hard time with, which was, 6-9. This is one of the longest levels in the game, and after a whole minute of fast action, you have zero time to react to these slanted flowers. I failed so many times, until I realized you can infinitely hover by punching constantly. Definite Rayman 2 pirate ship reference. And the level's called You Again. And the level number is... So as I mentioned earlier, perfect completing 5 stages unlocks the world-exclusive Livid Dead stage. Far as I know, there's no reward for beating them beyond an old achievement system. These stages are about as rage-baity as it gets. Majority trial and error, full of spikes and traps. This is subjective, but I always found these levels more of a nuisance to play. Sure, it's rewarding to finish one, but I'd just rather do something else really. Nothing wrong with them though. There's no final boss in Jungle Run, but they do have a recurring appearance of the boss plant from Origins, Carnivora. As you could guess, you just run away from it, though its presence does require you to tiptoe around a bit in order to stay alive. Apparently Mr. Dark was meant to make some kind of an appearance, but that didn't end up happening. I swear he's the most recurring, non-recurring character, also meant to appear in Rayman Origins. In a developer interview, writer Gabriel Schrager said that Origins would reveal how Mr. Dark became what he is. I would say he's a teensy based on this concept art, but in the final game, we discover the teensy magician as a Mr. Dark sympathizer that dresses up like him. I doubt Mr. Dark was actually conceptualized as a teensy in 1995, considering these characters had no presence then and were only introduced years later in Rayman 2. Maybe Mr. Dark never had a secret identity in the first place? He was just designed as a hooded bad guy with a top hat? All speculation, who knows for sure. I'm positive that some people were introduced to Rayman with Jungle Run, and I think for what that's worth, it might have been enough to create interest in the other games. I mean, the art style on its own can carry a great deal of weight. As per the gameplay itself, it's fine. A simple distraction for new players, fans of the series and UbiArt fanatics alike. It's not a perfect game, but in terms of mobile phone gaming, I guess it's a masterpiece? Short bursts waiting for the bus, maybe spares between classes, Jungle Run is a more than effective time waster. Initially, I wanted this video to cover the entire series of Rayman mobile games, until I found out that Adventures and Mini are entirely inaccessible now. Fiesta Run, the direct 2013 sequel to Jungle Run, can still be played unofficially, and I did run through the first 30 minutes. I would consider Fiesta Run a higher budget expansion to the formula that was set up in Jungle Run, so you might perceive it on first impression as the better game, and in motion, yes, it does appear to be that way. Better level design, more characters to use, beautiful Legends-style graphics, though once again you're listening to a few select energetic tunes that'll annoy you quickly. There are a few reasons that I've decided not to keep Fiesta Run as a part of this video. After getting through the entirety of Jungle Run, I just feel drained out. You were never meant to play these back to back or run through them as quickly as I did, so I don't feel I have the ability to appreciate this game correctly right now. That being said, there is a substantial detail regarding Fiesta Run that makes me want to avoid it further, and that's the monetization aspect. Beyond all that, you still had to buy the game first, which I can't imagine worked for them as well as a free-to-play model would have. A lot of the monetization focuses on unlocks and power-ups. Unlocks, sure, whatever. But power-ups? I feel that kinda hurts the design philosophy that made Jungle Run so memorable. Levels can be difficult, yes, but they're so short, who cares? Now I can deploy power-ups to essentially remove that challenge and breeze right through it. Because of these, you also have to wait a couple seconds every time you start a level to get that prompt out of the way. I don't know, for me it loses the appeal. Then came Rayman Adventures in 2015, which was an actually free-to-play game. Sort of a final hurrah to the UbiArt mobile series, or at least that's how many of us perceived it at the time. Then Rayman Mini came out and I remember rolling my eyes at it. We're still doing this? Now, I have heard that both these games are an improvement compared to earlier entries, and that's cool. I am curious to try them myself someday if the community's able to make that work somehow. But as of this writing, there's no official or unofficial methods of playing them. Now I hope this video didn't come off as too negative today. I have no problem with these games, it's just that monetization stuff with the following games. Either way, you know, that was then, this is now. Have things gotten better? Not really, but that's all I got written for this one, so have you tried these modern Rayman mobile games before? Which one was your favorite, and why? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching as always, and I hope to catch you guys in the next one.
Yeah!